I'm on here today because I've been told that I need to not express my faith on social media because it prevents me from having certain opportunities that I'm trying to have right now. And I just want to speak to that. First of all, my understanding of my faith is that the core of it is love, loving other people. And I believe that loving other people is something that all of us can agree on, even if you're an atheist, even if you're a Hindu, if you're Buddhist, if you whatever faith you practice. I believe that love is a core of that. Love for other people is never wrong. Expressing that is never wrong. I think that each of us are individual in the way that we go about expressing our own beliefs, and religion is very personal. And so even if we have the same faith, whatever you want to say, everyone's faith is unique to them in the way that they interpret the things that they're reading and the way that they follow things. So no matter how alike we might be, we're going to have differences. And I think that loving other people is about respecting who they are and honoring how they think. And as long as you do that, there's no harm in expressing your faith. Every one of us have these qualities that we believe in, whether we're Christian, whether we're Buddhist, whether we're atheist, whether we're Jewish, whether we're whatever. I can't list them all. There are things we can agree on. And so I absolutely do not think that being a person of faith is something that prevents me from accepting other people different than me. And it's not something that's going to stand in my way. Personally, I think that if I had not had my faith when I went through some of the things that I described in my previous videos, I wouldn't have made it through. My faith is what kept me spiritually alive. It's what kept me physically alive. At some times when I was very depressed about what was happening, things I didn't have control over, it kept me going, and it helped me put myself back together. I'm not going to stop being who I am or expressing who I am. I think that when the time is right for me to be promoted to an administrative role, the people around me will accept that just because I have a strong faith does not mean that I'm trying to make everyone else like me.
Just think about me.
Everybody. I have just returned from the most amazing graduation trip weekend. I really had a good time. We went to Lexington, Virginia, which was about an hour away from my university that I went to school at. I did online classes for my EDS, and I just finished. I was supposed to walk in May, and that was moved to September 11th, and then it was canceled for this year and moved to May of next year with the next group. So we decided that it was a big deal, that I had worked really hard for my degree, and we wanted to go ahead and take the trip. So my parents came down from Maryland, and we went together, my husband and my parents and I, the four of us, and we just kind of, did the sightseeing around town. We had to teach on Friday, but once the day was done and we had finished what we were required to do for the day, we enjoyed an afternoon being there already and just heading out and going through some of the shops. We ate in some really neat places. One of the places was an authentic German restaurant that we ate in called Edelweiss, and they had all these different dishes, and you could get samplers, so we tried so many different things. So we had good food, we had good company, and I think the best thing that we did the entire weekend, to be honest with you, that I was the most excited about, was going to the grist mill, Wade's Mill, in Rafine, Virginia. We went there, and it's just this little mill like in the country, so we got to drive through the mountains, around the mountain, and like winding roads. It was so pretty, so many trees. And then it was just tucked away in the country there. And when we got there, the docent met us at the door, and he was taking groups through to keep people separated for COVID. So we got a personal tour, and that was really nice because we had the opportunity to talk more to him and ask a lot of questions, get our questions answered. I told him that I was a science teacher, so he told me a lot about the power generation and, everything that has to do with making the water wheel work. So I got some really great stuff that I can use later on in all three of my classes in different ways depending on the standards. So that was the most fun that we had. And then they have a little gift shop where they sell things because they still are grinding flours and meals and things like that today. It's operational. So we purchased some things to bring home. I'm going to make some dough bread later today from one of the mixes that we bought. So I'm sitting here in church today. It is quiet. No one is here yet. My husband is a pastor. And I decided just to take a few minutes before the busyness of my Sunday and talk a little bit about being a Christian in the public school system. Some of you have watched my video on bullying in the workplace, and you know that a few years ago, I experienced a situation that made me almost want to quit education, public education. I did some searching. After I left the last position that I was in, I was just really trying to find my way and figure out how to put myself back together. And I did try to open my own school. I tried to open a private school through the church that we were working with, and I was close to making it happen. But the reason why my school was not successful was not because I didn't have a great program planned and curriculum lined up and information the parents needed. It was because of two things, and well, basically it was because of money. And we were a small church community, and the church, we had to be very careful because we, as a United Methodist Church, we support education in a lot of ways, and education supports people having better lives, which I firmly believe in. That's why I went into the field in the first place. So I'm part of something called C4C, which is Congregations for Children, which basically that addresses the needs of children that come from homes where they might be strained economically. If they are at a disadvantage due to economics, all the C4C ministries try to address those things from different directions. So they work with law enforcement, they work with food pantries, food banks, they work with education in building literacy, because literacy helps people gain a life later on as an adult, and when they have a better life, they're less likely to commit crimes and things like that. So that's a passionate thing on my heart is doing those things, and I think that's something that as a public school teacher, it's totally in line with what I do. It doesn't infringe on anything that I do. But getting back to the school that I was looking at opening, there were a lot of opinions on it, lots of different opinions. Some people thought that it was a bad idea because private education has typically taken away from public education. But in my case, because I was a teacher for so long in the public system, I was determined that I was going to open a school that did not take funding away from public education. So I was attempting to, through some creative marketing and programming, I was attempting to get local businesses on board to sponsor students in kind of a work-study situation where either the student, if they were old enough, could do some work in exchange for tuition, or where the parents could work and their child would be given tuition for the school. And that was going to build the trade program in the area as well. So it was a great idea, and I actually had a model for it that was working in Virginia, and I had been in contact with some of the people there, but I didn't have the support that I needed to see it through. So it was one of those projects that, as a creative person, sometimes you start things and then you let them go later, and because it's not working. And so I just put that off to the side. But I ended up opening a preschool with a friend of mine who asked me to come on board once he saw what I was trying to do and the vision that I had. He liked the vision that I had for the school and the type of learning that I was trying to propose for my school, and he said, hey, come over here and work with our church and help us start the preschool. So I did go and start a preschool with another church that was in our same faith system, and I really enjoyed my time there. I love the people of that church community, and I really blossomed there, and it helped me put myself back together after everything that had happened in my previous position, and it gave me hope in education again. So I'm always going to be grateful for that opportunity, those people in that position. They unfortunately were not able to keep me on because since I'm a certified teacher, I was worth more than a little community church could afford to pay. So after I started the church, then a year later I ended up not being able to continue, but that preschool is still there. And so I began something, and I was able to say, hey, I took my ideas and I turned them into something tangible, and it's still going. So that's okay. I was really sad when that happened and I couldn't stay. And sometimes when you are very emotional about something and you've put a lot of yourself into it, your emotions, it's hard to separate them out, what's sadness, what's anger, because that was my baby that I had started. But it was their church too. It belonged to them as much as it belonged to me. And I just needed to step back a little bit and get myself together and find a new direction. And so last year we went on a trip to Maine. And my trip to Maine, the purpose of that trip was to unplug, relax, and hear what I was supposed to do. So I told you this message was going to be about faith. As a public school teacher, we have to be careful with the way that we demonstrate our faith in the public school system. There's a separation of church and state. In my instruction manual, the Bible tells me to obey my governing authorities. And so if my governing authorities say that, there's certain ways that I am and am not allowed to be a person of faith in my job, then I have to obey those. And I've always obeyed those. I've never crossed the line. I don't feel in anything that I've done. But people have different opinions on, interpreting those things. So I'm on here today because I've been told in a few different places that I need to not express my faith on social media because it prevents me from having certain opportunities that I'm trying to have right now. No matter how alike we might be, we're going to have differences. And I think that loving other people is about respecting who they are and honoring how they think. And as long as you do that, there's no harm in expressing your faith. Personally, I think that if I had not had my faith when I went through some of the things that I've described in my previous videos, I wouldn't have made it through. My faith is what kept me spiritually alive. It's what kept me physically alive. At some times when I was very depressed about what was happening, things I didn't have control over, it kept me going, and it helped me put myself back together. And in the world right now, with all the things that are going on, I think that's more needed than ever. The other core beliefs that I have in my faith are being patient with other people, being faithful and loyal in friendships and relationships, kindness, gentleness. I'm not very good at gentleness because I'm an exuberant personality, and so that's one thing that I struggle with more, because when you are a passionate person, gentleness doesn't come naturally. It's something that has to be worked into you over time. So I'm learning that. And also I get excited about things. So self-control is something that I'm, working into myself. Every one of us have these qualities that we believe in, whether we're Christian, whether we're Buddhist, whether we're atheist, whether we're Jewish, whether we're whatever. I can't list them all. There are things we can agree on. And so I absolutely do not think that being a person of faith is something that prevents me from accepting other people different than me. And it's not something that's going to stand in my way. I'm not going to stop being who I am or expressing who I am. I think that when the time is right for me to be promoted to an administrative role, the people around me will accept that just because I have a strong faith does not mean that I'm trying to make everyone else like me. And I've learned a lot too about, as far as making decisions, when I look to other leaders that have been leading me, I've learned that there's a lot of different lenses that you have to view a problem through before you make a decision about how to act. And if you don't have all of the information from all the different angles of the problem, then you might think that one solution is correct, but it might not be if you have the other information. So in my growth towards becoming a principal, one thing that I've learned is not to judge people who are in leadership, because you might not have all the information that they're basing their decisions on. And that's just part of my growth. But of course, because I'm a person of faith, I use my faith to process what is happening around me. In the United States, we have the freedom to express our religion. Obviously, in a school setting, I'm not going to teach this to students. That's not my job. That's not why I'm there. I'm there to teach them science. I'm there to teach them, the math that goes with science. I'm there to teach them about life, the world, how to be a 21st century learner. But I'm also there to instill character traits in them, of being patient, because learning takes patience. Being kind is part of accepting diversity, which will make them successful in the workforce. And love in a friendship kind of way is something that is an admirable thing. And if people love each other, then they accept people from different backgrounds and different beliefs, and they can work together. So those things I absolutely can instill in my students. I can walk my faith out, and it doesn't infringe on the rights of anyone else to believe what they believe. and we come together in the places that we agree on. So we can come together on character traits and qualities that bring us together as people, as a diverse group of people that came to this country with a dream of having freedom of speech, of having freedom of religion, of having the right and ability to be who they were, to own their own land, to make their dreams come true. That's why we came to this country. That's not a political thing. That's our history. I'm in a good spot now. I'm healing. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm putting my life pieces back together, and I'm moving forward. I'm building relationships with the people that I work with, and I'm learning new things about being a leader. And when someone gives me a chance, I'm going to be ready. But my faith absolutely is only going to complement what I'm doing. It's not going to inhibit what I'm doing. So that was kind of deep today, but I just needed to get some of that out because of where I'm at in my own journey towards growing in my career. Today should be a good, kind of relaxed day. We're home, kind of readjust, reacclimate to being home, and we're going to be home for a while now. So, but it was nice taking those 2 weekends, since we couldn't take a week off, taking those 2 weekend trips in place of a week-long trip allowed us not to miss any service here, and it also allowed us to get all of our work done at school and not miss any time, and be there for our students. Everybody have a beautiful Sunday. I hope you enjoy yourself somehow, some way today. It's sunny here in North Carolina, and I'm hoping to be outside for a little bit of that and enjoy some of that sun today. But wherever you are, do something for you, relax, get ready for your week, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye.